Good evening, you are watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I am your host, Ulaanbaatar. And for our top stories. Gender equality in the workplace brings equal opportunities and outcomes for women and men. New Mongolian law on social media threatens free speech. Air pollution levels in Ulaanbaatar are 27 times higher than the recommended limit. For the news, stay tuned. Workplace gender equality will be achieved when people are able to access and enjoy equal rewards, resources and opportunities regardless of gender, say women. Women leaders are switching jobs, seeking better opportunities, and that could have serious implications for companies.
Women leaders are just as ambitious as men, but at many companies they face headwinds that signal it will be harder to advance. It's increasingly important for women leaders that they work for companies that prioritize flexibility, employee well-being, and diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Women working in the local public service have their challenges like the working environment. For example, women working in the capital or major cities are close to IT and technology innovations that facilitate some daily tasks. It's difficult for women to work continuously in the public service, as women have many different tasks at the same time, like taking care of their family, doing household chores, and at the same time advancing their careers. When it comes to the workplace environment, usually women complete a massive amount of daily tasks, but their representation at the decision-making and management level is still not enough.
If companies don't take action, they risk losing not only their current women leaders, but also the next generation of women leaders. Young women are even more ambitious and place a higher premium on working in an equitable, supportive, and inclusive workplace. They are watching senior women leave for better opportunities and are prepared to do the same. The aim of gender equality in the workplace is to achieve broadly equal opportunities and outcomes for both women and men.
The Parliament of Mongolia passed a new law supposedly to protect human rights on social media. But human rights groups say it threatens free speech and gives the state the ultimate power to regulate content on technical platforms. The law was presented by the Ministry of Digital Development and Communications, OCHL, and was approved by Parliament within 3 days.
The newly adopted law will be in effect from February 1st unless President Horesok vetoes it. It covers communications where 3 users or more communicate with each other. The law gives broad powers to a public relations unit that will be created under Mongolia's Public Center for Combating Cyber Attacks and Violations and be tasked to regulate social media content. The broad powers include processing requests regarding restricted content and delivering decisions, recommendations, and requirements to social media providers. The law lists various content violations such as denigrating state symbols, national, historical, and cultural values, culture, and customs of Mongolia, discriminating against an individual or specific group based on ethnicity, language, race, gender, social origin, status, wealth, religion, opinion, sexual or gender orientation, disability, or health, instructing in detail to commit a crime or violation, or encouraging, inciting, instigating, promoting, or supporting the commission of a crime or violation, and so forth. The law also empowers the Mongolian government to reduce the distribution of content in violation and to partially or completely limit the communication network in the event of public unrest. Public and human rights organizations as well as media professionals worry that the law threatens free speech and gives the state the ultimate power to regulate content on tech platforms. Some articles of the law can be ambiguous in such a way that it allows the state to limit the reach of contents that they deem as offensive or intolerant. In addition, users of widely used social media platforms note that the platforms itself have their regulation mechanism for offensive contents like blocking, limiting access, and hiding, so there was no need for adopting such a controversial law in a hurried manner. Plus, it adds suspicion that the hasty adoption of such law could be related to the approaching parliamentary elections.
On Thursday, air quality experts gathered and discussed the air pollution situation and related emerging issues. According to the latest data, air pollution levels in Ulaanbaatar are 27 times higher than the recommended limit.
On Friday, the current PM2.5 concentration in Mongolia is 5.1 times above the recommended limit given by the WHO for the 24 hours air quality guidelines value. Breathing in air pollutants can irritate human airways and may cause shortness of breath, coughing, wheezing, asthma episodes, and chest pain. Exposure to air pollution puts citizens at risk from lung cancer, heart attacks, stroke, and extreme cases, premature death. Last year, in March 2022, air pollution experts gathered their reports and submitted them to the National Committee for Environment Protection, and we haven't received any feedback or follow-up questions. Looking at the statistics over the last 5 years, air pollution hasn't decreased. The 2018 law on eliminating the use of raw coal is not being properly implemented, so there is a need to implement the already passed laws and regulations.
The air quality index is updated every 30 minutes. All the equipment we use is using the latest technology that are produced in Germany, Japan and France. So there is no data error in the information. Lately we only had some domain errors and they were already fixed. So anyone can access agar.mn website and check the air quality.
Air pollution is not just a problem related to Ulaanbaatar, as the air quality has decreased in regional areas such as Umunqov, Tornot, Bayonghor, Irdent, and Sukhbatar provinces. The air quality in these provinces has deteriorated 1 to 2.9-fold.
Please take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by the Central Bank of Mongolia. Now here comes foreign news partnered with international news agencies. A retired Army General Petr Pavel is challenging populist billionaire Andrej Babis in the Czech presidential runoff vote that pits the political newcomer against the former prime minister. Pavel and Babis advanced to a second round of voting because none of the 8 candidates seeking the country's largely ceremonial presidency received a majority of the votes in the initial round 2 weeks ago.
Pavel narrowly won with 35.40% of the vote compared with 34.99% of Babis. 3 other candidates pledged their support for him ahead of the 2-day ballot starting Friday. The winner will succeed controversy-courting Miloš Zeman, whose second and final term expires in March. Zeman divided the nation with his pro-Russia stance until the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24th and support for closer ties with China. Babis has been a divisive figure in politics as well. With Zeman his political ally, he shares Eurosceptic views and espouses a strong anti-migrant rhetoric, which unites him with anti-migration champion Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister. Babis has been critical among other issues of the 27-member European Union's plan to tackle climate change, saying it would hurt the Czech Republic's economy. Babis' ANO Yes movement lost the parliamentary election in October 2021. A coalition of 5 parties formed a new government, and ANO ended up in a position after a turbulent term and the sometimes chaotic reaction of his government to the coronavirus pandemic. The campaign has been full of false accusations and controversies. Babiš launched an aggressive attack against his opponent, accusing him of being communist spy trained by the KGB, without giving evidence, and went on to comparing him to Russia's President Vladimir Putin. He was also trying to make people believe Pavel is a candidate of the current coalition government, which he blames for high inflation and surging energy prices. Pavel runs as an independent. Russia's war at Ukraine was a core issue. Babiš presented himself as a peacemaker while accusing Pavel of being a warmonger due to his past as a soldier. The Czech president has no such power to negotiate peace in another country's conflicts. In the most controversial statement, Babiš said he wouldn't send troops to Poland or the Baltics, the NATO allies, if attacked. He later backtracked by saying he supports NATO's principle of collective defense, but his words were condemned by the government, and Zeman had to explain to his Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda that the Czechs remain committed to their NATO obligations. Pavel was a former chairman of NATO's military committee between 2015 and 2018, the alliance's highest military body. He served as the chief of the general staff of the Czech army before. Pavel fully endorsed the country's military and humanitarian support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia and sees the Czech Republic's future linked to membership in the European Union and NATO. He has presented himself as the right person for the post in hard times amid Russia's war in Ukraine. As a member of the UN peacekeeping mission UN-PROFOR during the war in former Yugoslavia, he helped evacuate 53 French peacekeepers in 1993, for which he received the French War Cross. Pavel was a Communist Party member before 1989 and said he was sorry for that. Pavel's campaign attracted unexpected high numbers of supporters in cities considered Babiš's strongholds, and 4 latest public polls predicted his victory.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights on Wednesday welcomed the efforts of the Colombian government to resume talks with the rebel group ELN, the latest active guerrilla in Colombia.
High Commissioner Volker Turk spoke at the end of his first official visit to Colombia, where he also offered the aid of the OHCHR to negotiations and advice on human rights, including, in particular, victims' rights. Turk said he expressed his support to the Colombian President Gustavo Petro during an earlier meeting.
It's clear that in such a difficult situation as we currently have in Peru, we call on de-escalation. We call on respect for human rights. We call on making sure that use of force, when it comes especially on the part of the law enforcement agencies and the police, that they respect human rights. We call, of course, on everyone to refrain from violence. And that's really the message from human rights. And we will strengthen our own presence there to make sure that we can contribute in a meaningful way to this very difficult period of Peru.
During the visit, the UN representative met with representatives of indigenous populations, Afro-descendants, human rights defenders, and representatives of civil society. He also said to have reached the Peruvian government to offer their expertise on human rights and called every party involved in the ongoing social unrest to refrain from using force.
Now here comes regular features on world sports. Cristiano Ronaldo and Al Nassr were knocked out of the Saudi Super Cup after a 3-1 defeat by Al Ittihad on Thursday.
Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr were knocked out of the Saudi Super Cup on Thursday after a 3-1 semi-final loss to Al Ittihad in Riyadh. The 37-year-old Portugal international, 5-time Ballon d'Or winner, had a couple of chances to score but was well shackled by Al Ittihad France for most of the match. The Portuguese star has not had a great start for his new club Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia as he failed to find back of the net for the second consecutive match. In his first match for Al Nassr against Ettifaq, Ronaldo did not have a single shot on target. Anderson Talisca's goal for Al Nassr in the 67th minute was not enough to turn around the deficit from two first-half goals for Al Ittihad from Romarinho and Abderrazak Hamdallah. Mohanad Al Shankiti added the third 3 minutes into the stoppage time. Al Nassr next travelled to Al Fatih in the Saudi Pro League on February 3rd.
Benjamin Karl claimed the win at the Men's Snowboarding World Cup parallel giant slalom event in Blue Mountain, Canada on Thursday. In the women's event, Switzerland's Ladina Jenny claimed the win.
The first day of 2 days of competition in Blue Mountain on Thursday, January 26, saw the trend continue in the women's PGS this season, with the 4th first-time winner out of a quartet races, with Ladina Jenny claiming the spoils ahead of Lucina Dalmaso, Sabine Schofmann, and parallel slalom winner in Winterberg in the season opener in December, beat compatriot Claudia Regler to claim 3rd. Benjamin Karl secured the 19th World Cup victory, repeating the win last time the race was held here in the 2019-2020 season. This time though, Karl enjoyed the glory alone after he and Italy's Mirko Felicetti previously made history with the first ever tie for top spot in a parallel World Cup event. Karl was up against Felicetti again but beat him in the first knockout round in another super close race by just 0.15 seconds. In the small final, Oskar Kwiatkowski bested as resurgent Lee Sang-ho, the top qualifier today and last year's overall globe winner. Jenny joined Michelle Decker, the conquering Carissa, Gloria Kotny, Cortina's queen, and Carolina Langenhorst, the beast in squall, in becoming a first-time World Cup winner this season. The big final would have seen a debutant top stepper, no matter what, as Jenny was up against Dalmasa, whose best result prior to the race was 4th in the PGS in Cortina in December. The pair initially kept pace with each other until Dalmaso fell, leaving Jenny free to cross the finish line unencumbered, screaming with delight. The win moves Jenny up to 2nd in the PGS standings on 216 points with 3 races to go, behind defending PGS champion Ramona Therese-Hornfeister on 227. The Germans' hopes of claiming a 4th consecutive overall title drifted further from her grasp as the 26-year-old was unable to capitalize on her rival's early exits.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying tuned. And we'll see you next time with more news and updates. Have a good day.